Okay. So hi, my name is Mackenzie Hutchison. I am a student at Delta College. This is my public speaking speech. So I'd like to start with my topic is suicide in children. In 2021, I heard some devastating news. I found out that a former student passed away. This is Taylor. Taylor was a freshman in high school when I found out that she had committed suicide. Now, what's hard is that Taylor was young. Taylor was also a former student of mine and was a tutor to some of my current students. So having to deal with the grieving process for not only her, but for my students that I had currently was a huge process. But according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, it is the second leading cause of death in children from ages 10 to 14. In 2020 alone, 581 children had died from suicide. So today we're going to learn about what suicide in children is. We'll be discussing its symptoms and its preventions. So what does suicide in children look like? Suicide is death by injuring oneself with the intent to die. So what that looks like is someone could hang themselves, someone can overdose from over-the-counter drugs or prescription drugs, or even a firearm if they can have access to it. There was a study done from 2000 to 2020 where there was over 1.2 million cases of overdoses. During this study, they discovered that there was 1,005 deaths of suicide in children alone, ranging from ages 10 to 18. During the study, there was a 4.5 increase in young children versus the 2.4 increase in adolescent, which is 13 to 18. Now that we've discussed what it is, let's discuss some of its symptoms. So first, let's talk about the 7 warning signs. So the 7 warning signs look a lot like talking about the future in a hopeless tone, which means they aren't looking forward to what they have in the future. Seeing an increase in social isolation, which is cutting themselves off from their friends, not hanging out, not asking to hang out, or when someone does ask them to come hang out, then they just shut them down. Giving away possessions, it's a misconception that children don't have things to share. But really they give away their favorite drawing, a bracelet, necklace, journal, a favorite toy. It's just, it's not as common to see as adults would give away something that's more of value, like a crystal setting or silvers. They also can find an increase in risky behavior. Of course, this also follows with older kids where they're learning to drive, they have more responsibilities, or they have a little more freedom because their parents are always checking in on them. The 5th warning is thinking means to kill oneself. So this is more where we'll talk about later about self-harm, where they are hurting themselves. That can be banging their head on a desk, on a wall, cutting themselves. And so we'll further talk about that later. A 6th one is talking about suicide and writing about it. This is something that they'll do with a more personal person that's not necessarily directly involved in their life, but maybe outly involved. So maybe a different teacher that they've had in the past. I've had students come talk to me about something that they wrote and it was kind of dark. And so I had to bring it up to my supervisor. And then lastly, threatening suicide, where they say, I just hate my life so much, there's nothing to live for. And then that's where they get to that point. So now that we've discussed the symptoms, let's talk about some prevention. Oh, I forgot to talk about the ideation and ideology. So let me go back really quick. So ideation is the thoughts of suicide or planning suicide. Let's see. In There was just a article released by CDC that said that, let me see. That 18% of teenage students or high school students had come up with a plan to commit suicide. And that's taking it to the next step of harming themselves where they're thinking about it. And so to think that 18% of students are wanting to commit suicide is a huge deal. So now that we've talked about what ideation is and some symptoms of thinking about suicide, let's talk about prevention. So Ritu Chatterjee with the NPR drafted an article which informs the community about the new 988 hotline. They created this hotline because the original hotline number was 10 digits long. In a crisis, you're not going to remember all those digits and what order they go in. So 988 is so much easier to type in, and it's easy to remember. You can also yourself, to help prevent people from committing suicide, especially children, is be there, talk to them, as well as get mental health first aid training. In fact, the 180 Center of Lodi is hosting a certification training class at the end of April. If you're interested, let me know and I will send you the information about that. So like it says, getting therapy for your mental health or depression. And some of the simple steps are asking about, are they thinking about hurting themselves or killing themselves? Keep them safe. Make sure that you know that they are being heard, that you're listening, that you're not interjecting, and then connect with them and stay connected. So today we talked about suicide in children. We learned about what suicide is, what to look out for and its symptoms, and prevention. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the second leading cause of death in children is suicide. No one expected Taylor's death. I didn't, and not even her closest friends. Taylor was a really good student and was active in her high school life, and she had a really bright future ahead of her. So we may not always be able to prepare every student, and we may not be able to prevent all suicides, but doing the small thing that matters is helpful. Thank you. Okay. And then do I stop recording? Okay.